there's an important vote taking place in Washington today. Can you give us an update about what's happening in the U.S. Senate?
We just got off the phone with Senator Schumer's office, and the United States Senate is taking up a measure today that would extend a very important program to New York State in particular, which would provide an additional $3 billion of federal assistance in Medicaid funding to New York State, extending that current stimulus benefit that we're getting until June of 2011. The current program expires December 31st of 2010. This is critical funding that would help to stabilize property taxes and avoid other services from being cut.
That's FMAP.
It's
correct?
also known as FMAP, the Federal Medicaid Assistance Percentage for New York State.
And what does that mean for counties?
For county governments, it means a great deal. It means that programs that would have to be cut, services eliminated, these programs would be allowed to continue for New Yorkers because of this temporary relief. We're in the middle of a massive economic recession in New York State. Our state budget is under a massive budget deficit. State funding is pretty much frozen, if not cut or eliminated. These federal funds come at a very important time to help local governments, county governments, provide essential services.
How about for taxpayers? Is there any benefit for property taxpayers in New York State?
It has a real and direct impact to property taxes. The property taxpayers would avoid paying increased property taxes to pay for public services. More and more people are accessing public services, using Medicaid right now to get through this recessionary period. These temporary funds from the federal government help property taxpayers provide these services locally, helping families get through these difficult times.
That's great. That's really important about what's going on in Washington. How about Albany this week? What's going on in Albany in terms of the state budget, and what does it mean for counties?
Well, it's very dysfunctional right now. Albany is at an all-time low. In the 20 years that I've served in this institution for the taxpayers of this state, for county governments, I have never seen it at this low level. The politics of government has clearly taken over the process of government. We have a 130 some odd billion dollar state budget that's pending right now before the state legislature. It's clear with the circumstances surrounding the governor, surrounding the legislature, and the things that have happened during this legislative session, that very little has been done on the governor's budget, which was submitted in January and is supposed to be voted on by March 26th. It's March 4th. There's not been one public hearing. We can't get a sense of the process of the legislature, the deliberations of the legislative body, how it will dispense with this budget and deal with governing. We spent the day today walking around the halls of the Capitol on behalf of county governments, on behalf of the property taxpayers. It's a ghost town. It's a process clearly shackled by the politics of the situation of the day, and it's scary as to how we're going to get through this problem of this magnitude of an $8 billion budget, a structural current budget problem or a deficit, in the 3 weeks that we have left in this session.
You said $8 billion. The Assembly and the Senate and the Division of Budget came to an agreement earlier this week that the deficit for fiscal year 2010-11 is approaching now $9 billion. How is that going to impact state budget negotiations going forward?
Well, the governor, to his credit, has really been tackling the state's finances very admirably. He has tackled it head on, and in his latest budget presentation, known as the 21-day amendment, after which he amended his budget, here we are now, 30 days later, with the legislature coming to consensus that the revenues are $1 billion off than they were in early February. So the way that it's impacting the situation is dramatically. It makes things much more complicated than what was an already difficult budget by way of Medicaid funding reductions, education funding reductions, and massive cuts across the board in many other programs, including eliminating park services or closing our parks. A ridiculous proposal, but one of which proposed by a governor dealing with a massive budget deficit, and now the legislature is saying the problem is almost $1 billion worse than what the governor said in February. It is clearly making the budget process much, much more difficult.
What's the position of counties at this point in this process?
Well, we're very anxious. We're anxious to see the outcome of how these leaders will solve this situation. We care an awful lot about taxes, property taxes. We care an awful lot about corporate taxes. We care a lot about economic development, how we're going to raise jobs and grow our way out of this recession. I don't see any leadership on that issue coming out of this. All we see is a tax on industrial development agencies that's taking effect as we speak. We do not see a cohesive plan on how to attract jobs, maintain jobs in the state, and all we're seeing is chaos right now. So counties are very concerned about delivering state services locally and how the state is actually going to reimburse them.